Good day, everyone. Dan, Sharpe Trade, excuse me. I'm turning my phone to Do Not Disturb, so we are not disturbed. So, hello! It is a bit slow, so I thought, you know what, I want to kick out this entry. And I'll tell you why I want to kick out this entry. It sort of follows the thoughts on the video entry that we put out last week, and we just called it, I Don't Know. I Don't Know. I think an alternative title we had for it was Fake News for Investing and Trading. That seems to be all the rage right now, right? Fake news, or at least at the time of this recording. And some of my thoughts here is just a blending of like 20 different conversations I've had with many traders over the last few weeks, as well as an epiphany or epiphanies that I'm having about folks who are new to investing and trading. And I guess some of my own epiphanies it's striking to me, and it's really dawning on me how many people are looking for some sort of trading manual, like Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3 of a trading manual of how to go about investing and trading for a career, and then if I just follow this manual, it will all work out. And I'm here to tell you that the best investors and traders I have ever met will, when asked a question, very often say, I don't know. I have no idea. The best traders I have ever met are always adaptable. Now, you know, sometimes I've been known myself to sort of poke fun at some of the nonsense that is out there about investing and trading. I want to be clear. Some of what I'm poking at is some of the hubris and arrogance of people talking about topics, and as soon as they start opening their mouth, I can tell they don't know what they're talking about. They've never even been anywhere near that space. But at the same time, I'm not trying to elevate myself as some sort of guru. And I think that gray area in the middle is, you know, I thought maybe in the past that if I just said that, people would understand where I'm coming from. And I don't think people really understand where I'm coming from. For example, we had that entry in the last video entry, or the one on fake news for investing and trading, or I don't know. And I talked about like this, how to beat HFT or how to front run HFTs. And I just started laughing at it immediately, right? Because it was just filled with all of this, just absolute, complete, and total nonsense. I am convinced that the person presenting that presentation knew no more about what they were talking about than a hound dog knows when Sunday comes. But I'm not trying to elevate myself as the one guru. I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean and going through that entry. It was had all of this polish on it, and the person started off with what I thought was a complete and total bullcrap made-up sounding title. I am a CMT, Certified Market Technician. Sounds all very professional, doesn't it? And I just busted out laughing. I mean, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. A CMT? And it was just hilarious. And I pulled over several other traders that I know trade, and I was like, guys, have you seen this? It's like, I'm a CMT. Like, what's next? Sharpe Trade's going to start issuing its own certifications. You too, if you pay us, maybe that's a good gig. Maybe we should get into that gig. We'll come up with the certification. You got to take our test, and then you can be a Sharpe Trade certified BCA. You can be a Sharpe Trade certified bullcrap analyst. You just listen to stuff, and you can say, yeah, that's bullcrap. And we'll issue the certification. You have to pay us for that Not really. I'm just poking fun, right? But I was sitting here laughing. And another trader that has known me and followed me for some time said, Dan, that's actually a thing. And I was like laughing. I'm like, what? That's not, like, what are you talking about? That's not a thing. Certified Market Technician. So what did I do? I Googled it, right? It turns out somebody is issuing this certification. And the more I read, the more I laughed. I was just busting out laughing the more I read about this. You too can be a certified market technician. How to read Bollinger Bands, how to read candlestick patterns, how to analyze chart patterns, how to read an exponential moving average. And it was just like, you're kidding. There's certifications for this? What do you have to be able to identify overbought on a 20-day stochastic if it's slow and the difference between fast? Come on, you're kidding. And this other trader said, no, Dan, seriously. That's a thing accepted by regulatory agencies. And I was like, you're lying. Bullcrap. And here's the thing. Dan didn't know. That actually is a certification that is accepted by FINRA. I had no idea. Never have heard of that in my life. Of course, there's many things out there in the regulatory space that personally, and this is just Dan's opinion, is sheer and utter nonsense. But yeah, is that a real thing? Yeah, it is a real thing. Does that mean that that person knows what they're talking about? Absolutely not. And as a matter of fact, somebody saying I am a CMT and that's why I'm certified to speak on HFT almost cements in my mind that they are not certified to talk about HFT. And it goes back to that paradigm that I mentioned before. Why is it that people don't want to be the expert in their space, but want to be the experts in everybody else's space before they've even mastered their own space? Because that can be a lifetime endeavor. Why does everybody else want to wax philosophic about something else? Listen, here's the thing. HFT. All right, so I was watching this thing on HFT, and I'm like, the first thing I cracked up was CMT. That just absolutely, I busted out laughing. And it took Chris, thank you, Chris, pulling me aside, and Dan was like, Dan, you know that's an actual thing you can get certified for? And it's like, no, it's not. I was like, somebody told me they want my CMT. I'd literally bust out laughing in their face. And he's like, no, look it up, dude. It's actually a thing. Which, again, as I've said before, that doesn't really mean anything. But it goes back to that first point I made. People are actually looking for a manual. People are looking for the trading manual of go through chapter 1, memorize chapter 2, and you can trade professionally for a living. Wrong. That whole paradigm of thought is wrong. I'm not the guy. Nobody's the guy. Ray Dalio isn't the guy. Nobody's the guy. And what aggravates me is when people put out nonsense. And they put out this nonsense, and then they make these claims like, this is why you should listen to me. For example, I'm watching this thing, and it says, I went down to the floor of the exchange, right? So this person that's going to tell you how to front-run HFT, which even if you believe HFT is a problem, and I don't, even if we differ there, we would have to both agree you can't front-run HFT. This person kept on saying things like, when you're chasing dark pools, what the hell is chasing a dark pool? Has this person even seen an ATS ever? So they kept on saying these things. But before they got to that point, they were making these claims like, one of my proudest moments was going down to the floor of the exchange and talking to all the traders. Ding, ding, ding. See, this is put in the preface to make it sound like this person's an expert. This is the person you should listen to. They've been down to the floor of the exchange just recently, and they talked to all of the traders. And Dan, it's like, to me, it's flashing red alert, danger captain, shields up. What traders on the floor of the exchange, in the same presentation that you're saying, you're talking about HFT? What traders on the floor of the exchange? Many of these exchanges, okay? Many of these exchanges are now warehouses. So when you see this on television, and I had to have 2 or 3 other traders point this out to me. I wasn't born with this knowledge because I didn't know. But anyways, you know what you see on television? Like they're at the floor of the exchange. You know where they're actually at? What they're actually at is sort of like the PR studio, almost the PR television studio of that exchange. And they've got some displays set up to make it look all professional looking, like guys are running around executing trades. And they're not. If anything, it's sort of like this glorified television studio / PR sort of front, sort of PR display case of the exchange. But the actual exchange, and don't take my word for it, you can go look this up, is like a warehouse out in the suburbs. Or that particular exchange, it's actually this warehouse of servers out in New Jersey. It has nothing to do with that floor. And there's definitely not traders running around on that floor getting their trades done. So I don't know what this person was talking about. About like they were just, and they showed a modern picture of the modern, the floor of what you see on television. It's like, that's like a PR studio. What are you talking about? The traders executing the trades on the floor of that exchange. What are you even talking about? And then they're going to talk about HFT. And some of the funny things was, it was like, they had this whole, like, they're a Bollinger Band expert, right? Bollinger Bands you can read in an afternoon on an Investopedia article. That's not trading. Seriously. stochastics and Sharpe patterns. Go check it out on Investopedia for free. So they highlight all of these things as their accomplishments, and then they proceed to talk about front-running HFT. I got news for you. Nobody's going to be front-running HFT. They're talking about HFT as if these the HFTs is what they call them, are building positions. And, over the course of 3 weeks, I was like, over the course of 3 weeks, what are you talking about? By definition, like an HFT market maker is market neutral. That's the whole point of being a market maker. They don't care about the direction. What are you talking about? And then again, all these terms like chasing the dark pools. What are you talking about? Chasing dark pools. So my point of aggravation was that this person was listing all of these accomplishments up front as if this was to qualify them to speak on microstructure execution. When I sat down to listen to this thing, I was almost expecting, okay, are we going to hear about the direct feed advantage over, just retail traders going through an indirect feed? Are we going to hear about multicast outputs? Are we going to hear about how the exchange passes on to SIP? Is this person going to speak at length about matching engines? None of that. It was complete and utter nonsense. It was complete and utter nonsense from beginning to end. And as I said, I'm not sure, and one of my business partners actually made the comment, they're like, Dan, I'm not sure that those were like, good job comments, as much as they were just like fluff comments, like sock puppet comments that they had hired somebody to put on there. And that's all it was, to sort of boost engagement stats. And that was his point, actually, one of my partners said. I think that was just, those weren't people that actually believed that. But the point is, that's out there for retail. And here's my thing. I'm sitting down expecting to hear something about multicast and matching engines and things getting passed on to SIP. I want to be very clear about this. I don't know jack all about HFT. I will say that I think compared to that particular individual, I would be like the HFT expert / Einstein / prodigy genius. But in truth, I don't know jack diddly about HFT. I don't know anything about microstructure. There are guys out there in that space, in the microstructure execution space, and there's a paycheck to be gained there, and they are not trading. They're not investing in trading. They're not even running their own HFTs. They've just almost made a business of understanding exactly the entire throughput of how everything works. As a matter of fact, the head guy, he and I do not get along. I started asking several questions about, like, what would any of this have to do with risk overlay and optimal math over an iteration of trades? How would that affect? And I asked several questions, and he didn't like it, and he got a little snotty with me, and eventually he blocked me. So I'm not defending those guys at all. As a matter of fact, the lead guy in that whole space blocked me because he's got whatever attitude about whatever he's got about. Is that guy the one guy that knows more than probably anybody on this planet about how the microstructure execution feeds all work? Absolutely. Absolutely. He could blow anybody out of the water when it comes to that knowledge level. Does he know anything? Is it my own personal opinion that he knows anything about risk overlays and optimal math of an iteration of actually putting on trades or putting on investments? No, not at all. He doesn't know a thing. It's only my personal opinion. But here's the point I want to stress. I'm always trying to learn about the markets. I'm always trying to learn about different aspects of the market. You know, the futures market, right? I don't trade a lot of futures. I'm trying to think, the last futures I had was a couple of weeks ago. It was just a bounce. I mean, it was almost like a wild horses couldn't keep me away from this trade. I am definitely going to make this trade. But I don't trade futures a whole lot, right? Futures, order flow, that sort of thing. I'm telling you, if that's what you're really into and developing a risk model there, DTG, Discovery Trading Group. Yes, we have an affiliate relationship with them, but I'm telling you, you cannot learn from me. You cannot learn from me about order flow and futures. Okay? I could speak about it, but that doesn't mean I'm the one guy that is just going to wax philosophic about order flow and futures. And here's the one thing I appreciate about DTG. They'll both tell you they can definitely, that they have much experience on putting on trades, and yes, they do that. But they'll tell you the same thing that we try to stress. Nobody has all of the answers, and things are changing all the time. So anyways, I was listening to this fascinating presentation about MBO orders coming online, and it's been discussed for, I don't know, how long has it been discussed? Since 2016, I think. MBO orders are coming online and giving more transparency, as I understand it, because I was trying to understand it, not only to the dome, like up and down, like the bids and the offers, right? But also who's sitting where exactly in that space. So you're seeing somebody sit on the offer. Well, what's the exact transparency of who's sitting where? And from what I understand, with MBO coming on, it's supposed to add that transparency. And it was just this whole discussion, not that they were like, so that's why you should listen to me. It was more like actual professional traders talking, because they're trying to get a handle on it. It's like, okay, the market's changing, the market's adapting. My whole point here is the markets are always changing, the markets are always adapting. And none of us know what the future is going to bring. None of us. And a lot of new folks come into investing and trading, and it's like, well, who do I listen to? There's so many people out there to listen to, right? And they're looking for like this trading manual. When I get to this step in my trading career, I should do X, Y, Z if I'm running this model. There are no answers like that. There is no trading manual. Look at our short-term trading course, right? I try to stress, and that short-term trading course is split into two sections. There's everything that's on the website itself, and there's like 11 hours worth of material there. And there's also supplemental information on the forums. And over again I say, there's no way to know how the next trade's going to work out. That's why you revert back to money management. But here are some strategies. I think even publicly I've mentioned some of those strategies, right? We have one, it's sort of like 30-day, sort of major markets. I can tell you the stats of that as it's run in the past. Since 2006, I think in one of the public videos I said 2003, but it's actually from 2006 to May of 2017. It returned 424%. There's zero discretion. It's completely mechanical. Its CAGR is 15.8%. Its SPY correlation is positive 0.55. Its maximum drawdown is negative 30.7%. It has 49 losing periods, and it had 59 periods where it underperformed SPY, even though it returned something like 424%, right? But it's split into 30-day segments. That's one of the programs. There's another program that Sharpe Trade LLC itself actually uses, right? It returned from 2006 to 2017, 297.5%. There's no discretion. Its CAGR is 13%. And again, the same SPY correlation. Its maximum drawdown is only 18.4%. The losing periods was only 38 losing periods, and the periods where it underperformed SPY was only 43. And that's the one, and that of those two variations of that same type of strategy, that's the one we've personally gone with, right? But here's the thing. Don't think from that we've been running this since 2006, or that those stats will carry on exactly the same way into the future. All that does is give you a personality. All that does is give you a flavor as to what that particular process has done in the past. It doesn't tell you what it's going to do in the future. And we have not been running it since 2006. At a certain point, you know what the thing in the manual, the trading manual says you have to do? You just have to make a decision and go with it. And try to adapt and be adaptable. It's just like listening to that presentation on MBO orders. Why was I listening to it? Because that's going to heavily affect me? No, because the markets are always changing. Things are always changing in this industry, and you have to be adaptable. So I know that there is no way I can suck up every bit of information, but it is going to behoove me to get as much of it in my brain as humanly possible so I can make a better informed choice. But just like those two trading programs, what the trading manual says is, like, which of those do you choose? You know what? You have to make a decision, and you have to live with it. And what we have always called the markets is this gigantic fight. That's what we think is probably the best metaphor. And you have to realize that when you make a decision, you have to be willing to accept the consequences of that decision and the risk of that decision, and it might mean you get KO'd out. So we went with what we call it, we could just call it Program DI, right? Very professional sounding, isn't it? It's just the initials. That's all it is, okay? So we decided to do that. We've decided to give it a specific weighting. Does that mean that we're only going to have to face a drawdown of 18.4% with that particular program? No. It could do something in the future. Listen, in the 1960s, I think it was the 1960s, was it the 1960s? The markets just went into this range for years on end. If that happened, that program will get chopped up. So what I have to think about is, okay, we put the program on and we're running it. What happens if that maximum drawdown number gets breached? What happens if that kind of environment, I can tell you right now, if we go into that sort of sideways market, that program's going to get busted up. How will I adapt? The whole name of the game is learning to be adaptable. I don't know, maybe I can make this the introduction to our short-term trading course, but it's like the main thing is that article I wrote called Trading Blasphemy, if you look that up on Short Trade. The main thing is learning how to be adaptable. Yes, we have these two programs. I decided to go with one. It just means that's what it returned in the past. That's a flavor of its personality in the past. I have to go with it. I have to monitor it. I have to live with the consequences of the decision we make for putting that program on. Yes, it's mechanical, but that doesn't, simply because it's mechanical, does not mean that its drawdown is only 18.4%. We have no way of knowing. The drawdown may be less, the drawdown may be more. What sort of kill switch will I put into place? Well, what's the correct answer to what sort of kill switch should you put in place, Dan? I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. That's what we're talking about. You have to learn to become your own guru. You have to learn to make decisions. This goes back, and I want to finish with this. It goes back to something that the guy who screwed my head on straight said years and years ago, and it has always stuck with me. And he said, and some of you may remember this quote because it's something I have said many times, I've broken it down into kind of an overall view. Because I don't think it's enough just to give people a bunch of numbers and things and here's a system. Because my sense is you get a system or you get some parameters to trade with and you think you're a great trader. And you're not. And I'm not. Because being a great trader means you have to understand what's going on. Because whatever is going on now will be different than anything in the past. And anything in the future will not be exactly like now. Larry Williams. When he said that, it really just cemented in my mind what this career is all about. Like MBO orders coming online for futures, right? And everybody in that space, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't affect me at all. But I want to know. I want to know as much as I can possibly find out about how orders are matched in different markets. And I was under the mistaken belief, because I don't know, I was under the mistaken belief that it was FIFO on all, it was just pure FIFO on many of these markets. And a lot of those futures markets, it's not FIFO. Some of it's FIFO, some of it's a blend of FIFO. You have these new orders coming in. How does that affect the execution? There's just so much to know that nobody can know it all. And that's what we've been trying to stress. Nobody knows it all. Nobody knows the future. You assume the risk and you accept the consequences of that. And here's the thing. That's just life. That's just life. I was telling some other traders this, and I'm going to say it here. Years ago, I had this conversation with a gentleman in our area who ran many businesses, right? Several businesses. And we got to talking. And I got to talking about, he was curious about what I do because he knew I was in the markets. And I was talking about what he did. And even though I have never operated businesses like what he operated, brick and mortar businesses in just the local community, and he had never done what I do, which is be involved in worldwide markets, on regulated exchanges. We found so many similarities, We found so many similarities when we started talking with one another. And he mentioned something to me, and I haven't forgotten that conversation either. He said, it's funny people look at them now, right? So somebody that's running their own businesses, they can retire or sell off several businesses, and they have several $1,000,000 from that, and they sell that off. And, you know, he had made the comment, it's like, it's funny because some people will look at that and it's like, well, he ran everything so intelligently and he made all of the right decisions and he always knew how to run businesses, and, you know, he just did everything so perfect, and look at the success he is now. And he started laughing. He started laughing because it's like, if people only knew. And people always forget about the decisions he made to do X, Y, Z with that business. And there was no boss to lean on to say, well, that's that guy's problem. He's got to figure it out, right? He's the boss. I just come for my 9-to-5 paycheck. No, he was the boss. And he made a decision and it blew up in his face. And it affected him and his wife for like 2 or 3 years in a really, really negative financial way. Like, nobody remembers that, right? He had to navigate the waters after he made this huge mistake with his business, navigate the waters back to great profitability. It was all on his shoulders, and he didn't know what the right answer was. He was just making decisions and accepting the risk of those decisions. And our conversation, we just found so many similarities as we were talking to one another, because he's like, you know, not banging anybody that takes a 9-to-5 job if you accept the risk of just taking a 9-to-5 job. But somebody's got to make those decisions, right? If it's if you accept the 9-to-5 job, then you're passing that buck off to the boss and hoping to God he makes the right decisions. And I was like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, dude. Not because I know what it's like to run my own business in the community that's a brick and mortar, but you make trade decisions or you put on a particular process and you got to live with it. And things are changing. Going back to the futures markets, I'm not sure how many people know this, but I used to trade the futures markets like almost exclusively. And then a change was made in the way orders come across the dome, right? And I didn't really realize it had happened for like a year. But I was always big on learn to read the tape, learn to read the tape, learn to read the tape. And everything comes through on the dome and you can sort of put together what's going on here. And great, wonderful, great, big order comes in and it blinks red. Okay, what do you do there? And I was making decisions based on reading the tape. But then a change, because the markets change, a change came through in the protocols as to the way that those blocks come through, the way those blocks of orders come through on the dome. So the way they come through on the dome changed. And now, instead of just like somebody is like, here's 500 lot order, they would show how that 500 lot order, how they got matched up, right? They didn't show you the whole 500, boom, all at one time. They showed you how it was getting matched up in various blocks. So it was much harder to see those really big orders keep on coming in at a certain price level. And it was really hard it was much harder to match. So what we're saying is the market changed on me. And I couldn't read the tape like I once did. You have to be adaptable. You know, recently, you have jigsaw trading, you have the market delta footprint charts, you have that stuff. And it's sort of reassembled a lot of that back so that you can sort of read the tape in futures, right? Another change, another innovation by traders themselves, like they actually trade, and that's how they put the feedback together in a much different way, but you can sort of get a little bit of better feel of what's going on with the tape, right? Another change to the market. So what we're saying is it's always changing, and that's why I'm always reading about the markets, and I don't know more than other guys because I have no fear in saying I don't know. I don't know. That short-term trading course, here are various models. But in our short-term trading course, something you hear me say over and over again is, yes, this is the way many institutions will put together their book. And the part people always skip over is, but you have no idea the way that's going to work out in the future until you actually assume the risk and run it. And there are no answers. You have to just constantly adapt. You have to constantly make a decision. You have to constantly monitor what's going on. That's this industry. That's almost running any business. Okay? So that is why we have the disclaimers on our, the beginning of the video. Yes, our in-house legal counsel wants them there. But it's also why I think, and this is something Rob said to me earlier, and I think it's true, this is why the exchange and the different regulatory agencies make you put up those disclaimers. Because there are people out there just looking for a manual to read. What do I do in XYZ situation? I don't know. What do you think you should do? You have to become your own guru. So yes, I can show you how, we're constructing, how we construct our book and the different processes and different variations of strategies, and here's the historical norms. But at a certain point, you got to put it together. You got to jump in the ring and you got to start ducking and enjoying the fight. That's what it comes down to. As I said, maybe we'll make this sort of the introductory video to the entire short-term trading course. But that's really what it's all about. Because in the end of it, nobody knows, right? Are you listening to me because I got a nice suit on, nice tie on? I only have this on because I've got an appointment later. That's why I have this on. I'm gonna, in the short-term trading course and in other video entries, I'm wearing a baseball cap and a t-shirt. So why are you listening to Sharpe Trade? Is it because, do not take this as well, this is the proper guru image. There's one guy out there who loves to do that, always puts on the tie. You know what the Fed's done? You know what the Fed's done? They've created a bubble. They've created a bubble. Whether he's right or wrong is a mute point. It's that image that he's trying to project. I'll be on here some days with a hockey jersey and a baseball hat. This is because I have to go out. So anyways, just remember, it's not a sin to say I don't know. It is a sin to try to use accomplishments as if somehow you are the one guru with all of the answers as to how the future will unfold in what we refer to as the great black void of the future. No way to know. But that has been my little rant on some of the epiphanies I've had that people are looking for a manual that doesn't exist. And that has been what it's always been. It's simply been our thoughts, not yours, for whatever the heck date is. As always, stay safe, trade well, and remember that love doesn't cost a dime.